Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, Gardening in Cold Spring Harbor. For those of you who are new to my channel, I'm in Long Island, New York, Zone 7A. First day of summer 2023, guys. Hard to believe that only a little while ago, we were waiting on that last anticipated frost date and for spring to finally arrive. Guess what, guys? Spring is behind us and summer is officially here. So what are we going to talk about today, guys? Today we're going to talk about 3 tomato pruning techniques that can help maximize your tomato yield and tomato harvest. I'm going to share these important yet very easy tomato pruning techniques. So if you guys are looking for that online gardening channel that offers tips, tricks, easy yet proven gardening advice to take your home garden to that next level, stick around, guys. Don't go anywhere. Start with clicking the subscribe button. And if you never want to miss any of my new upcoming gardening videos, don't forget to click the bell icon. YouTube will notify every time I'll upload a new gardening video. Now come with me. Let's talk about pruning our tomato plants. So in today's video, we're going to talk about not 1, not 2, but 3 tomato pruning techniques that will not only help maximize your tomato yield, but will also help control diseases when it comes to growing tomato plants. Tomatoes are such a fun summer vegetable to grow, guys. I know it, you guys know it, but guess what? Tomatoes are one of those vegetables that are just prone to disease at one point or another during their growing process. So if you do decide to grow tomatoes in your home garden, you should just set your expectations correctly. And again, guys, if disease does happen to your tomato plants, remember, you're all excellent gardeners, and it is not your fault. So we're going to talk about how we can prevent disease from happening to our tomato plants, and if something does occur, how you can help your tomato plant overcome one or another type of a disease. With these 3 tomato pruning techniques that I will share with you guys today, you can have more tomatoes, more delicious, sweet, crunchy tomatoes to harvest in your home garden, and you will have less to no disease to deal with when it comes to growing tomatoes. So let's get started. In this raised garden bed, I have just a few of the tomatoes that I'm growing this year, summer 2023. So now let's talk about pruning our tomato plants. Why should I or you or any of us fellow gardeners prune our tomato plants? First and foremost, pruning allows you to control the general sizing of your tomato plant, which is very important because you do not want your tomato plants to get out of control in the height. Also, pruning allows for better light penetration, which is essential to your tomato plants. Also, it does indeed boost your tomato harvest, which is what we want. We want to get a large and abundant tomato harvest every single year that we grow tomatoes in our home garden. So the first pruning technique that I like to use when it comes to growing my tomato plants in my home garden is I like to cut off the branches and the leaves on the bottom 6 inches of each of my tomato plants. 6 inches on the bottom. Why do I do that, you might ask? First of all, when you are removing those bottom 6 inches of branches and leaves, you are essentially giving your tomato plant more air circulation. Hence, you are preventing the spread of any sort of soil-borne bacteria. So now let's get in a little closer, and I'm going to show you exactly how I prune off the branches and the leaves on the bottom 6 inches of my tomato plant. So here is one example. Here we have a tomato plant. So you could see where the top of the plant is and where the bottom. So all of these bottom leaves and branches are too low, guys. Look, they're basically touching the soil. Some are already touching, some are so low they're about to touch. So we don't want any of our branches touching the soil. Again, we do not want to spread soil-borne bacteria. So what do, guys? You get into your tomato plant. You take the branch that you feel is too low. So the bottom 6 inches of your tomato plant. You take clean scissors or pruning shears, whatever you prefer. Just make sure they're clean. And you cut the branch as close to the main stalk as possible. Just be careful not to cut into the main stem because you do not want to damage the main stem. So here you go, guys, as close as possible, and you cut the branch off. So now you do essentially the same thing. You go in again. This branch is on the bottom 6 inches of the plant, so I cut as close to the main stem as possible. This one is totally touching the soil, completely on the bottom. So I do not want it there. I'm going to cut it off as well. Here is another one that's too low. Cutting it off, guys. This one's also drooping down. Plus, it's a skinny, scrawny branch. So we want to get rid of it. We want to keep the thicker, more mature branches. Cut it off. Any tiny, scrawny branches you want to essentially get rid of. Here's another one, guys, as close as possible. By removing the branches and the leaves on the bottom 6 inches of our plant, you could see how much freedom we are already giving our tomato plants. You could see that now the tomato plants, which I just pruned, are already, let's remove this one too, doing so much better when it comes to air circulation. Here is one that I didn't prune yet, and you could see how overcrowded with branches and leaves this tomato plant still is. So I'm going to work now on pruning this tomato plant. But again, you could see what a difference pruning the branches and the leaves on the bottom 6 inches of your tomato plant. What a miracle that does to your tomato plants. Look, you could see all the branches moving now. The plant is finally able to breathe. Now let's move on and let's talk about the second pruning technique that I personally prefer to use and use in my own home garden every single year when I grow tomato plants. That second pruning technique when it comes to tomatoes is to prune off all of the suckers off of your tomato plant. Now come with me, let me show you exactly what suckers are and how to locate them correctly on your tomato plant. A sucker, guys, is basically a tiny tomato stem that usually grows kind of in the armpit. So between two of the larger tomato stems. So this over here, this skinny little guy, is an example of a sucker. Some suckers might be shorter, smaller. Some might be taller and longer and larger. Essentially, you want to prune off. You want to get rid of as many suckers as possible on your tomato plant. One of the main reasons why we want to prune off as many sucker stems as possible for our tomato plants is because we want to manage, we want to be able to control the size of our tomato plants. Each of these skinny, small sucker stems can essentially grow and become a new tomato plant. Basically, a carbon copy replica of your original mother plant. So if you guys cut off your sucker stem and place it in a cup of water within a few days to a week, you will start seeing your sucker stem growing a root system. So if you let the root system grow and you plant it in a container or your home garden, you're essentially growing a brand new tomato plant. So how do you get rid of a sucker stem? If it is on a smaller side, you can gently get in there and use your fingernails to pinch off the sucker stem. If it is on the larger side, you want to make sure that you are using either pruning shears or scissors, but make sure that they're clean so you don't spread bacteria. Here you go, guys. I just pinched off one of the sucker stems. So why is this second pruning technique so important? It's so beneficial for your tomato plant. So by taking off, by either pinching off, cutting off, basically by removing the suckers, you are sending your plant's energy towards fruit production on the main stem of your tomato plant. So it is very important to identify your suckers, to locate your suckers, and to remove them as early as possible when they are just still on the small, tiny side. Again, guys, I highly recommend checking on your tomato plants at least once a week. Look for those sucker stems. Look for any branches or leaves on the bottom 6 inches of your tomato plants. If you see either one of those, pinch them off, prune them off, cut them off. By doing that, you are sending that energy back into the main stem of your tomato plant, and you're kind of directing your tomato plant to produce a larger harvest for you. Now let's talk about the third pruning technique when it comes to tomato plants, and that is to prune off any yellowing leaves that you could possibly find and locate on your tomato plants. Yellowing leaves can be a sign of a potential developing disease on your tomato plant. So it's absolutely crucial, essential, that you prune them off as soon as possible, as soon as you will see them developing on your plants. Keep an eye out on your plant. Usually the yellowing leaves start to develop towards the bottom of your tomato plant. So what do you do with the yellowing leaves? Again, you come in as close as possible to the main stem without damaging the main stem, and using your scissors or your pruning shears, you simply cut off the yellowing or diseased leaf. Another tip, never ever save or compost brown or yellowing leaves. Always get rid of them into a garbage can. Why? Because if you will try to compost brown or yellowing leaves, you are essentially harboring, you are saving and promoting disease, which is something you do not want to do, and God forbid spread it to your other plants that you have growing in your home garden. So get rid of any yellowing leaves that you cut off your tomato plant. Never save them and never compost them. Once I am done pruning my tomato plant, I personally never save any of the leaves, of the branches. I always dispose of anything that I cut off my tomato plants and throw it directly into my garbage can, because I am always very, very cautious about spreading any sort of a bacteria or disease to my other plants growing in my home garden. Aside from the 3 pruning techniques that I just shared with you guys, it is also essential to keep your tomato plants watered, properly watered, fertilized throughout the season, as well as giving your tomatoes that staking support that they of course will need. If you keep your tomato plants happy, I reassure you, they'll keep you happy by giving you the largest, the most abundant tomato harvest that you have ever had in your gardening career. This is it for this video, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me here on this gorgeous first day of summer 2023 in Long Island, New York, Zone 7A. If you guys enjoyed watching this video, if you found it to be useful, informative, helpful, show me that support by clicking thumbs up below. Leave your comments below, guys. Let me know, do you prune your tomato plants? If so, how do you prune your tomato plants and when? And again, if you haven't yet done so, don't be shy, guys. Subscribe to my channel, Gardening Cold Spring Harbor. So easy for you to do. Just click the subscribe button. Yet so pleasing and so rewarding to me, knowing that you guys enjoy watching my videos, that you find the information in my videos to be useful, informative, and helpful in your own home gardens. Now stay healthy, everybody, happy, and be well. And as I always like to say, happy gardening, and I'll see you guys again in my new upcoming gardening videos. Bye, guys.